Becky and Chris Eccher first met on a spring night in Boston. Their attraction was instant.
Becky was beautiful. She had a great sense of humor and amazingly charming.
He was such a nice guy, so much fun.
After an 18-month courtship, Chris proposed. They married and soon thought about starting a family.
I'm a 5th grade teacher. I love kids. I remember having such fun times growing up myself as a kid, and I couldn't wait for us to do that together with our own family.
2 years later, Layla Jocelyn was born at Newton-Wellesley Hospital.
Having Layla was amazing. It was the most intense love ever.
When Layla was 2, Becky and Chris wanted another child, but had trouble conceiving. Finally, they tried in vitro fertilization.
And it worked on the first try. We were so excited.
Months earlier, Becky had enrolled in a continuing education course in Central America. She needed a health form signed, so the week before her trip, she went to see her Newton-Wellesley primary care doctor.
Okay, big off for me. I gave her a physical and asked her if she wanted a breast exam. I found a breast lump, and I thought, she's only 34, and she's pregnant.
An ultrasound confirmed a mass. Becky was immediately sent for a biopsy.
It was a Friday. When I got the call, the doctor told me that I had an invasive cancer. And I immediately called Chris and told him he needed to come home. I was out of my mind.
Thought to myself, oh my God, am I going to lose her?
That was the worst weekend of my life. I couldn't hear Layla's voice. It would make me cry. I didn't know at that point what the extent was and if she was going to have a mom or not. It was really hard. And I was also 5 weeks pregnant and didn't know if they were going to ask me to terminate the pregnancy.
A few days later, filled with dread, Becky and Chris walked into Newton-Wellesley Hospital.
We met with an oncologist, a surgeon, and a child psychiatrist who would offer us help in how to share this information with Layla.
We talked about what treatments we could do during her pregnancy, and I assured her that we would work closely with her obstetrician and maternal fetal medicine to make sure everything was done as safely as possible for her and the fetus during the pregnancy.
It was a lot of information, but the doctor shared it with me in a way that I didn't need a medical degree to understand what they were trying to tell me.
Becky would learn that her cancer had spread to one lymph node, so a lumpectomy would be followed by chemotherapy. After the baby was born, Becky would have radiation treatments.
I remember my first day of chemo. I kept thinking back to my pregnancy with Layla and how I was so careful not to use anything with chemicals that would be harmful for the baby. And here I was about to be injected with this red medicine that looked like rat poison. I just couldn't understand how it was going to be okay. But it didn't make me sick, and I thought, okay, I can do this, let's keep going.
Dr. Catherine Economy is an expert in high-risk pregnancies at Brigham and Women's Hospital and at Newton-Wellesley.
During our visits together, we would talk about how her chemotherapy was going, specifically about why the chemotherapy she is getting is very safe in pregnancy.
Then, at week 27, a scare.
I started to bleed. They thought that my water had broken. They sent me by ambulance to the Brigham, where they knew my medical history and I didn't have to repeat it all to them. The test showed that I didn't, in fact, break my water, and I was able to go home the next day.
10 weeks later, the night of her last chemo treatment, Becky was awakened by contractions. The next morning, a healthy Stella Grace was born at Brigham and Women's.
So it was as if she had said, okay, I waited for your chemo to be over. I'm a month early, but here I am.
First time in a long time that Becky and I had something good happen to us.
Just days before Stella was 3 months old, Becky completed her radiation treatments at the Mass General Radiation Oncology program at Newton-Wellesley Hospital.
It's been hard, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But the doctors at Newton-Wellesley told me that they had found my cancer early and it was treatable and that I was going to be around for a long time to take care of my girls. Newton-Wellesley was more of an experience for me than a treatment. Because of its proximity to my home, I was able to drop Layla off at school, have my treatment, and make it back in time to pick her up at the end of the day. I knew that the medical care I was getting at Newton-Wellesley Hospital was the best, but it was my day-to-day experiences with the people there that made it such a good one. The valet guys, the people that worked in the coffee shop.
How's Layla?
She's so good. My weekly visits to maternal fetal medicine, I would walk in and instead of them asking my name, they would shout out, "I know who this one is." And thank God for the doctors, especially Dr. Gaines. If she hadn't found my cancer when she did, I don't know where we would be. They are all literally lifesavers.
We are just so relieved. We have so much to be grateful for. We're happy again.